Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into a world you might not expect? We're talking organized crime today.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, the Albanian Mafia.
Buckle up.
Yeah, this is going to be a wild ride, I think.
It really is. It's fascinating.
So we've got a whole stack of YouTube videos here from channels like VCE, the Crime Files, some lesser-known ones, and we're going to really dig into how the Albanian Mafia climbed to the top.
Yeah.
Consider this your crash course on Europe's cocaine kingpins. So, what is their secret sauce?
I think the better question is, what does their success tell us about the drug trade as a whole?
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Let's unpack this thing. First off, their origin story is anything but typical.
Yeah.
You'd think, a powerful mafia would have centuries of history, right?
You would think so, but the Albanian Mafia is actually a relatively new phenomenon.
Really?
It's directly tied to the chaos that followed the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Okay, so we're talking about a country suddenly thrown into just turmoil.
Absolutely.
Economic turmoil, widespread poverty,
Yeah.
readily available weapons,
Everywhere.
and law enforcement that's practically non-existent.
Over 500,000 small arms were stolen from Albanian military artilleries in 1997 alone.
Whoa.
Just that year. So yeah, think about that. Suddenly weapons are everywhere.
It's almost like every other person had a gun.
Yeah.
Like that level of instability, it just creates a breeding ground for crime.
Absolutely.
Almost out of necessity.
It forces people to make really difficult choices, and it's no coincidence that many early Albanian mafia leaders came from the Sigrimi.
The what?
The Sigrimi, which was Albania's communist-era secret police.
Oh, wow.
They had the skills, they had the connections, and they were ready to capitalize on that power vacuum.
So it's interesting because they didn't just rely on brute force.
No.
Their business strategy was almost revolutionary.
Yeah, I mean, their model really disrupted the entire cocaine market.
Really?
Instead of working through multiple middlemen,
Right.
they went straight to the Colombian cartels.
Wow.
That direct connection allowed them to secure massive shipments of high-purity cocaine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And by cutting out those middlemen, their costs were significantly lower.
Oh, yeah.
One video mentioned that they were getting a kilo of cocaine for about 4,000 to 5,500 pounds.
Wow.
While their competitors were paying upwards of 22,500.
That's a huge difference.
That's a crazy difference.
I mean, imagine the competitive edge that gives them.
I know.
They could offer lower prices for higher quality product and still make a huge profit.
It's brilliant.
It was a brilliant, albeit ruthless, business strategy.
So they basically cornered the market
Right.
by offering a better deal.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, would you be tempted by that, even knowing the source?
Yeah, it's a question worth considering.
Yeah.
Their model forced everyone to reevaluate how they did business.
Right.
But their strategic alliances were equally important.
Okay.
They understood that to truly dominate, they needed to work with other criminal organizations.
And that's where things get really interesting, right?
It does.
We tend to think of the Albanian Mafia as this, monolithic entity, like in the movies.
Right. Exactly.
But the reality is so much more complex.
It's actually a network of loosely connected families, clans, and groups.
Oh, interesting.
Their structure is fluid, and they prioritize strategic alliances over controlling territory.
Huh.
Yeah.
And their most significant partnership is with the Ndrangheta, the Italian Mafia.
Talk about a power couple.
Right?
Yeah, it gave them access to European ports and established distribution channels. One expert even described their business model as so impressive that even investors on Dragon's Den would be lining up to get a piece of the action.
Wow, that's high praise.
It is.
And speaking of ports,
yes,
this is where things get even more, intricate. I think the Albanian Mafia managed to gain control of some key European ports, like Rotterdam and Antwerp.
Yeah. Essential.
And that control is key.
It is.
Because it allows them to bring massive shipments of cocaine into Europe virtually undetected.
Right.
It's crazy to think how much cocaine actually slips through.
I know.
One video said 90% of it goes undetected.
Wow.
That points to a level of corruption and sophistication that's honestly a little unsettling.
It makes you wonder, how deep does this corruption go?
Right.
What would it take for someone to compromise their morals for financial gain?
Yeah.
It's a disturbing thought.
It is.
Yeah.
And let's not forget,
right,
the Albanian Mafia isn't just about business savvy and strategic alliances.
No.
There's a dark side rooted in ancient Albanian traditions.
Yeah, you're talking about Besa and Kanun.
Okay, break those down for me.
So Besa is a cultural code of keeping promises,
Okay.
emphasizing loyalty and trust.
Got it.
Which has been crucial to their success, but it's often juxtaposed with kanun, which is a system of blood feuds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so kanun is like their own ancient code of justice. It's how they maintain internal discipline and seek retribution against their enemies.
Okay.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
But it also makes them incredibly reliable and feared.
It's a fascinating paradox how these ancient codes can influence modern criminal activity.
It is.
And speaking of old traditions meeting the modern world, we have to talk about the Albanians.
Yes.
They're a UK gang.
Yes.
Essentially the face of the Albanian Mafia's youth movement.
Yeah, what's striking is how they use tools like music videos to flaunt their wealth and violence.
Wow.
It's like a modern-day recruitment campaign designed to entice a new generation into the world of organized crime.
It's both captivating and disturbing.
It is.
To see how they're using social media to build their brand and influence.
It highlights the adaptability of the Albanian Mafia, their ability to leverage modern tools for their own gain.
So how do we even begin to untangle this web?
Right.
The Albanian Mafia's success makes you question whether the war on drugs is truly winnable. Are we just witnessing a constant shift in power dynamics within an ever-evolving market?
It's a question that requires careful consideration.
Yeah.
The Albanian Mafia forces us to look beyond simple law enforcement solutions. To truly understand and address this issue, we need to delve into the social and economic conditions that allow these groups to thrive in the first place.
Right. We need to understand what makes someone vulnerable to joining organized crime.
Yeah.
Is it purely economic desperation?
Right.
Or are there deeper cultural and social factors at play?
And let's not forget about the victims of their operations.
Right.
The Albanian Mafia's rise has come at a significant human cost.
Exactly. We need to talk about how they launder their billions.
Yeah.
And the devastating impact of their involvement in human trafficking.
Absolutely. Those are conversations for our next 2 deep dives.
Okay.
For now, let's just sit with the complexity of this organization.
Yeah.
And what their success reveals about the world we live in.
So much to think about.
I know, right?
All right, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about how the Albanian Mafia actually cleans their billions. You can't just like walk around with suitcases of cash forever, right?
Right.
So how do they actually like legitimize this income?
It's fascinating how they've managed to make their dirty money look clean.
Yeah.
They blend traditional methods with a surprising level of simplicity.
You'd think with all their resources, they'd be using like elaborate offshore accounts.
Yeah.
Shell corporations, you know.
Think.
But they keep it surprisingly low tech, right?
Yeah, services like Western Union and MoneyGram are actually key to their money laundering operations.
Those services are meant for like everyday transactions.
Exactly.
Like sending money to family.
They require less information, making them harder to track.
Oh, okay.
Plus, the Albanian Mafia leverages their internal network of trust.
Okay.
They use trusted individuals to physically move cash across borders.
Oh, wow. So it's really old school in a way.
It is.
But effective.
One video described a system where they actually route money through China to South America without any actual electronic transfer.
It's almost like a financial shell game.
It really is.
And it highlights their strategic use of alliances, right?
Yes.
They partner with groups like the Chinese Mafia, who already have established networks and expertise in money laundering.
They know what they're doing.
It creates this vast shadow economy that operates alongside and often unseen by the legitimate financial system.
That makes it incredibly difficult for law enforcement to track these transactions and connect the dots.
But the human cost of these activities can't be ignored, right?
Absolutely not.
The Albanian Mafia's rise has come at the expense of vulnerable people.
It's a grim reality. You know, they prey on those seeking a better life, whether it's financial security or even a sense of belonging.
So they're looking for that community.
Absolutely. Many young Albanians are lured into the gang with promises of wealth and status.
It's like a twisted form of aspirational marketing almost.
Right.
They sell a fantasy of SaaS cars, designer clothes, and power.
The truth, of course, is a life of violence, crime, and a very real possibility of ending up behind bars.
Social media plays a key role here, right?
It's huge.
Groups like the Albanians use music videos and social media to flaunt their lavish lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which can be incredibly seductive.
Oh, yeah, especially
for young people struggling with poverty and a lack of opportunities.
Makes sense.
And it's not just their own people they exploit.
No.
The Albanian Mafia is heavily involved in human trafficking.
Unfortunately, yes.
Smuggling vulnerable individuals across borders.
Yeah.
And forcing them into prostitution or other forms of exploitation.
The Kosovo War actually played a significant role in this.
Really?
The conflict displaced hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
Creating a diaspora of Albanians who were often marginalized and susceptible to exploitation.
So the videos we watched showed how some Albanian criminals used the chaos of the war to their advantage. They'd claimed to be Kosovar refugees to gain sympathy and access to new territories.
Conflict creates opportunity, and in this case, it provided fertile ground for the expansion of organized crime.
And that displacement still has consequences today, right?
Yeah.
These diaspora communities are targeted for recruitment by Albanian gangs.
Trying to fill their ranks, taking advantage of people who are already vulnerable.
And the Albanian Mafia's control over European ports gives them a chilling advantage.
It does.
When it comes to human trafficking.
Same routes used for cocaine are used to move people.
It's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
These victims are trapped in a system of fear and control, often too afraid to speak out.
What can be done to disrupt these networks and protect vulnerable people?
Yeah, it's a tough question.
It is.
So law enforcement agencies have been working to combat the Albanian Mafia.
They have.
Operations like Operation Escalade in the UK, which was a massive undertaking.
It was.
Aimed to dismantle their networks.
Right, but these efforts often feel like a game of whack-a-mole.
It's true.
As soon as one network is disrupted, another emerges.
Yeah, because the Albanian Mafia is resilient and adaptable.
They are.
So it seems we need a multifaceted approach.
We do.
Not just arrests.
No.
We need to address the root causes.
Yeah, things like poverty, corruption, and social inequality.
Right. Those are the breeding grounds.
Absolutely.
That allow organized crime to flourish.
And we need to do more to support and protect vulnerable populations.
Yeah.
Both within Albania and in the countries where the Albanian Mafia operates.
Some experts believe that Brexit could potentially exacerbate the problem.
Yeah, there's concern that the disruption of trade routes and regulations could create new opportunities for smuggling and trafficking.
The more we learn, the more complex the situation becomes.
Yeah.
The Albanian Mafia isn't just like an isolated problem.
It's a symptom of larger global issues, deeply intertwined with political and economic factors.
Exactly.
Finding effective solutions means recognizing that complexity and addressing the root causes.
It's clear that understanding the Albanian Mafia's rise to power and their tactics is essential if we want to disrupt their networks and combat organized crime effectively.
But it's equally important to recognize the human cost of their operations.
Right.
The individuals whose lives are destroyed by the drug trade, by human trafficking.
Right. These are the stories that need to be heard and addressed.
This isn't just about dismantling criminal networks. It's about protecting vulnerable individuals and creating a world where organized crime struggles to find a foothold.
Their story continues to unfold.
It does.
And while the future is uncertain, one thing is for sure.
What's that?
We need to stay informed and keep asking difficult questions.
Right. We need to be aware of how global events and political decisions can create opportunities for organized crime to thrive. Only then can we hope to find meaningful solutions.
So much to think about.
I know, right?
Let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've learned so far.
Okay.
Before we move on to our final thoughts and insights. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
From their, chaotic beginnings in post-Soviet Albania to their, incredibly sophisticated business strategies.
Yeah.
And, their disturbing exploitation tactics.
Right.
So, what stands out to you as the most surprising part of their story?
It's the contrast that gets me,
Okay.
They're incredibly adaptable and entrepreneurial, almost like disrupting the cocaine market with their efficient business model.
Right.
But on the other hand, they're deeply rooted in these ancient traditions of loyalty and blood feuds.
Right.
It's like they're straddling two worlds.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like this weird juxtaposition of modern business savvy and these almost medieval codes of conduct. And it makes it so much harder to figure out how to deal with them.
Yeah.
It's not just about law enforcement,
No.
We have to understand why they've been so successful and try to address those underlying issues.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
We need to look beyond dismantling their networks.
Right.
And address the root causes.
Okay.
Poverty.
Yeah.
Corruption. Lack of opportunity.
Yeah.
These are the breeding grounds for organized crime.
One of the videos even suggested that trying to completely eradicate the drug trade might be a fool's errand.
It might be.
Like, as long as there's demand, someone will step in to supply it.
Exactly.
Kind of makes you wonder if we're fighting a losing battle.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it?
It is.
Maybe it's time to shift our focus towards harm reduction.
Okay.
What if we treated addiction as a public health issue instead of a criminal one?
That's a whole other can of worms.
It is.
And maybe a deep dive for another day.
Right.
But for now, I think we've given our listener plenty to chew on.
I think so, too.
The Albanian Mafia is a stark reminder that organized crime is a global problem.
It is.
With consequences that reach far beyond any one country.
Absolutely. It's complex.
Yeah.
And it demands a more nuanced approach.
And it's a story that's still being written, right?
Yeah. They're constantly evolving, adapting to new challenges, finding new opportunities.
What do you think the next chapter holds?
That's a good question.
Will there be a major crackdown that finally disrupts their operations?
Right.
Or will they continue to operate in the shadows of the global economy?
It's hard to say.
It really is.
Yeah.
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, we'll be watching closely.
Absolutely.
And we encourage you, dear listener, to do the same.
Yes.
Stay informed, stay curious.
And keep asking those tough questions.
And that's how we can make a difference.
That's how we learn and grow.
So until next time.
Keep diving deep.
See ya.